So we have a range of things. That's our high-end one. We do basic ACDs, call queues, and at the bottom are hunt groups, which are free of charge. We don't charge for those. Oh.
As part of the service package, can you get reporting on specific OCS usage or exchange usage?
So the question is, can you get usage reports? The usage reports in terms of Exchange and OCS are what Exchange and OCS give you. We don't actually offer anything over and above what Exchange, but there's also pretty rich capabilities in there. In terms of the telephony, absolutely. We have the question about the call center. You can do detailed agent response times and that type of thing, or you can get call detail records, so you can see every single call that's made internally and externally. And of course, we give you full financial data as well, so you can cross-charge departments and assign DDIs against cost centers. So depending on what you're trying to report on, whether it's financial or staff usage, we can provide with all that data.
It sounds like what you've been talking is all been based on voice over IP. Could you possibly use your solution and connect it to the PSTN network instead?
So the question is, this solution is about voice over IP. Could it be used to connect to the PSTN? This is a PSTN service in the sense that you can make and receive calls to the PSTN from the system. What we have is that instead of your site having a line into the PSTN from BT, from our data centers we have gigabit connections into cable and wireless and BT, and that's how the calls are routed. So it uses VoIP as it whizzes around the network, but if you wanted to make an external call, then the call gets routed to our data center and then out to cable and wireless.
Yeah, but between the data center and my site, which is voice over IP and not PSTN lines.
That's right, that's VoIP, yes. Okay.
So my question is, how do you deal with the firewalls between a company's network and the public network?
Okay, the question is, how do you deal with firewalls between a company's network and private network? On the voice side, we actually, as part of our design, is that you deploy a separate voice VLAN on the infrastructure with an IP domain that's actually controlled by us. So when the phones boot up and get an IP address, they're InTechnology IP addresses. We then physically connect somewhere that VLAN onto an MPLS VPN, whether it's yours or ours. And therefore, the voice traffic is totally isolated. There is nothing routable from the voice network onto any other domain. So we don't route across corporate or internet networks. We have a complete isolated voice. It's a very secure voice network. Yeah, it's a VLAN and MPLS VPN as well.
DDIs, things like that, how are they charged? Are they included in the monthly cost?
Yep, absolutely. So the question is, how are DDIs charged? There's no charge for DDIs. If you want a golden number, something lots of repeating digits, then there may be a charge on that, but absolutely not for standard DDI. If you have them already, we can nearly always port them across. There's a couple of exceptions, but to be honest, they're almost all gone completely now. So from your customer's perspective, there's no change in service. They're still calling you on the same numbers, and there's no charge for that.
And obviously, as we're on your network, call costs, how competitive are you on call costs?
So the question is, how we're competitive on call costs. Without going into specifics, it's difficult to give an example, but if on we have two tariffs, basically if you take CPS from us and whether you take IP from us. And our CPS tariff is very competitive, but if you take the IP, our UK landlines is about 45% cheaper than the CPS one, for a very, very simple reason. We get billed two bills from BT, one that ingress call and one that goes out. With an IP, there's no ingress charge. So basically that half of the call is free to us because it comes across our IP network, it doesn't across the ISDN. On our international charges are relatively very, very competitive. What we do though is, if you are interested in to know what the charges is that we have a service where you can give us your phone bill, preferably on a CD, and we will re-rate your phone bill against our rates and we will tell you what you would have cost us over the last 12 months. And typically it's a minimum of about 20%, but sometimes it can be 40 to 50% saving. Because obviously your on-net calls, your internal calls are free of charge as well. Yeah, so go on.
Question about OCS integration.
Yep.
Presence and control. How does that work?
So the question is, what about OCS integration? Well, OCS, as you were, OCS and everybody stands, has a list of users and a presence. So our phone system and OCS is integrated. So if somebody's on the call, their presence changes to in a call. So you can see remotely if someone's on the phone. And if you want to get hold of them when they're off the phone, you can say, alert me when they're off. Also, on OCS, every user is assigned one or multiple numbers, and then if you click on that person's phone icon next to them, it does a click to dial, which means your phone rings, and you just pick it up, and it actually connects you directly to the person you're talking about. So you don't need to type in the number; you just click the numbers call that person's advertised.
Internal networking requirements, are there specifically things like power over Ethernet, extra network points, quality of service, that sort of thing?
So the question was, what are the internal network requirements on the LAN side? Not many, to be honest. All we ask is that it's a fully switched network. There's a VLAN dedicated to voice VLANs. Power over Ethernet is optional, but recommended. For a couple of reasons. One is that you will find that a lot of people don't actually have a spare socket on their desk to power their phone, so actually powering it over the network saves a lot of desk space. The second is you can put a UPS on the LAN switch to keep the phones powered in the event of a power failure, so it replicates what a PBX does. QoS is recommended, but it's optional. What we often find is that in a LAN infrastructure, provided that the traffic is well separated and there is enough bandwidth, then QoS is not actually always necessary. But where you think you may have congestion, then QoS is enabled. But effectively, the only things we really ask for is a LAN and a VLAN, a switch and a VLAN.
Does your solution integrate in with wireless at all in terms of add-ons to the mobile communications?
Oh, okay. So the question is, does our solution integrate with wireless? So you're thinking like FMC, that type of thing? We don't have an FMC solution at the moment, but the difference about the Bortov system is it's 100% SIP. So if you have any SIP client, you can actually register with the system. So, I mean, on our phones, it's not part of the supported service, but you can have a SIP client on there that registers over Wi-Fi and will register back to the Bortov to make and receive phone calls to do that. So absolutely you can do that, and we just treat it as a SIP endpoint. There are some companies that we're talking to at the moment that do much fancier things where they'll switch between Wi-Fi and GSM, and they're certified to work with Broadways, and it looks like we'll probably roll that out this year. So the answer to your question is that we don't offer it as part of our service, but we also don't stop you if you just want to use the SIP client on your Nokia or whatever you're using. Cool.
As part of your infrastructure, do you offer fixed cellular termination, primary cell technology?
So the question is, as part of our infrastructure, we'd offer fixed, so like GSM gateways?
Yeah.
GSM gateways the answer is no, because GSM gateways are borderline what you're allowed to do with them. Some of the mobile operators call them illegal. That's probably a little bit too far, but we used to do it, and we had a very bad experience with it. Basically you had dreadful post-dial delay, you had awful call quality, and you have no CLI presentation. So we don't offer that. We just offer great mobile rates instead. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'm conscious we're running out of time here. I'm going to be dragged out here by my hair, so if I don't shut up soon. But I'd love you to come and visit us on stand 218. We're just over there. You don't have far to walk. Claire at the back also has a presentation on USB sticks. And if anybody's interested in trying our hosted OCS, we're offering a 30-day free trial as well. So you can try out the audio, video calling, the presence, all that type of thing. And we'd love to speak to you on stand 218. I can never remember which one it is. Thank you very much.